Hello, welcome once again to Scratch Track. Today we're going to continue with our games session. So the previous session we were talking about games, and yesterday we were looking at an example, and we tried to look at the different things that we've been able to work in our games. So today we're going to continue from where we left yesterday. So we're going to finish our game that we were doing yesterday so that we're able to play it and see if it's really working the way we wanted it to work. And then we'll also look at another example so that we get to understand the concepts of conditions, operators, sensors, and data when working with games in Scratch. So today is a continuation of the previous session, so feel welcome and ask questions as much as you can. Then please let us introduce ourselves, let us know who is in the session and which school you're representing, and feel free to ask questions about Scratch. So as I've said, today we are continuing from where we left yesterday, so that we're able to, yesterday we tried to create the healthy diet maze game. So today we're going to see if it's going to work the way we were creating it yesterday. And then we're going to look at one more example so that we can make sure we understand the concepts of conditions, operators, sensors, and data in when we want to create games in Scratch. So welcome. As we were handling our previous session, we still based on the SDGs, where we said it's easy to get our stories from these, or we just get our story from our ideas or the problems that we are facing in our society, and then we're able to relate where can it fall, how can I solve this problem. So we said our games should have a storyline, and that's why we have the SDGs here to guide us with that. So this was our game yesterday. We tried to create a maze. We were able to code the healthy foods, in our case, which were the fruits. So we had the apple, the banana, the melon, and then we had the snacks, which were the donut and the cheesy puffs. So we tried to write codes on them using the blocks in Scratch, such that the snacks could be able to move and tempt our character, who was Agnes, and then letter A for Agnes, and then the fruits are hidden, so Agnes has to go looking for the healthy food. As we all know, it's not easy to come around these things, so they're not everybody's favorite. So that's then to represent exactly happens in the real life. And then the snacks are all over, they're very tempting, so everybody wants to grab a snack. So that's why we make sure that the snacks were in the path so that they can be able to tempt Agnes to be able to eat the snacks. And we said we need to make sure that we have the different levels in our game, so we can be able to move from one maze to build another more difficult maze, so that we make our game interesting and be able to keep the attention of our players. So while we were working on our codes yesterday, we were able to look at the different sorry, I'm having some but I'm okay. Yeah, we're okay now. So we were able to look at the different blocks. We used several conditional blocks, like forever, to ensure that the character could be able to move throughout the game. We also tried to use the if statements that we could give the conditions that we want. Like we were saying, our player is not supposed to get in touch with the lines. Once they touch the lines, they're supposed to be taken back to the starting position, and that was with this. And then we also made it to make sound once they touch the line, which is blue in color. And then we also looked at the different sensors blocks that we used. So we talked of the keys that are supposed to be pressed so that our character can know they're supposed to be moving. And then we also talked of once the character comes in contact with the fruits or the snacks, what happens. So those are some of the sensing blocks we looked at. And then we were able to look at variables. We didn't look at lists, but we were able to look at variables, where we created a variable for health, which was supposed to capture the points of eating healthy or being able to eat the fruits. And at the same time, it was supposed to also help us be able to reduce the points once you eat the snacks. So this was the condition we were using. So we were saying if you come in contact with the fruits, you're eating healthy, hence you gain points. So we changed our variable by 5, of which hours we did 3. Then we also said if you eat the snacks, you lose the points by the same amount, which was 5. So these are the variables we looked at yesterday. We were not able to look at listing in our game, but we created a variable and we were able to use it. Then, so before we go to today's game, so I want us to check our game and see if we needed it to do. Can our character be able to move? Can the character be able to move based on the instructions that we gave it? So that's what I want us to check, and then maybe we can continue from there. Please feel free to ask any questions, and welcome those who are joining us right now. Feel welcome. So we are continuing with yesterday's session. So please feel welcome and ask questions. So this was our game. And as we can see, we have the blue lines. So I want us to look at the code again. So our character is here, Agnes. So we said we're going to use the arrow keys. We make it bigger so that you're able to see it. Yes, like that. Yes. So we said we are setting the size of the character. Then we even specifying the position where we want the character to always be standing when the game is starting. And then we had to specify the type of movement or how our character will be able to move. And that we decided to use the arrow keys, which are found on the keyboard. So we have an up arrow, which will help us to move up along the y-axis in a positive direction. So that means it's moving up. And then we were able to use the down arrow, which is supposed to help the character move along the same y-axis, but now in a negative direction, which means we're going down. So we're going down, and then we're going up with the up arrow and down with the down arrow. And then we had to specify the left and right movement, because as you can see in our maze, we have the lines that are cutting across, like these ones. So we need to also make the left and right movement. So that's why here we added the right arrow to move to the right direction, which is along the x-axis, but in a positive direction. That's why we put 4 without a negative. And then in the left direction, we are able to change x by -4, meaning we are changing the position of x, but towards the left side, which is a negative. So you can relate this with your mathematics lessons. So as you can see, coding is also bringing us to our classroom, which is that we are able to apply the knowledge that we have to be able to make the different movements. And then, so we said once you touch the line, so yesterday we had an issue with identifying the color, but I was able to work on that. So I decided to put the color to be 60, and then the saturation to be 64, and then the brightness to be 69, so that we can be able to get this blue. And as you can see in our maze, it has that blue. So let's see if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, we change the color again. Then, so that's it. Then we have our fruits. So we started with the apple, and then we said once we touch the apple, we want to gain points. That's why we're saying change healthy by 5. Remember, healthy is our variable. So when we go to variables, so we come to blocks, we click on variables, and we're able to see we have a variable healthy, which has a blue tick on it. So what does that blue tick on it mean? So once it has the tick, it means you're able to see your variable here. That's why it's written healthy, and you can be able to see it. So let me remove the tick and we see what difference are we going to have. So if I unclick that, so that we stop selecting it. If we go back to our maze, you can see that the variable has disappeared. Hence, we cannot know the number of points that we want or we have or we are making. So that's why we have to tick it. Make sure you tick your variable that you want visible here so that it appears. So as you can see, I've ticked it and it's back. So we have it back there. And you can place it anywhere you want. So you can put it here, there. You can be able to move it to this other side. So it's up to you to place your variable where you need it. So we said once we touch the fruits, apple, the orange, and then the watermelon and the banana, we are able to gain points by 5. 5, 5, 5, yes. But now, once we come across the snacks, like the cheesy puffs and the donut, we can add more snacks in our table, in our maze if you want, depending on what you want to achieve. So once you come across this or you eat this, you lose points. That's why we're saying we change by -5. Negative, we know it's for subtraction. So that's it. And then as you can remember, so we set the position, we defined the position. I've clicked on the apple. Then we can see the code on the apple that we gave it a size and we gave it a position. The orange, the same thing, we gave it the size and the position where we want it to be standing. Same thing to the melon. But the melon, we added the costume because we wanted a specific costume. Since we said, as you can see here, the melon has different costumes. So we have the whole melon. Then we have half a melon. And we also have a piece of a melon. So we choose one that we feel is we would want to have. So in our case, we are using the half. We can also decide to use yesterday we were using the piece of a melon so that it looks more beautiful. Yes. So let us make it bigger. So I'm going to work on the size so that it appears bigger. Yes. Now we can see it clearly. As you can see, yes, it is visible. So that's it. Then our banana, the same thing. We gave the size and the position. And then for the cheesy puff and the donut, we were able to make them move, keep bouncing so that they're able to tempt our character with Agnes. So we have the movement, which is under the forever control block, so that the action is repeated all over again. So let's do this. Let's play our game. So remember we said the movement is done using the arrow keys. So we're in the keyboard. So we're going to use the up, down, left, and right keys to be able to move our characters. So let me click the flag so that the game starts. Yes. Yeah. So we can see The donut and the puff are moving as we had instructed them to move. And then for the bananas and the apples, all that, they are still in a standstill position, so we have to go looking for them. So we are up here on our character. We want it to be able to move, Agnes to be able to move round, looking for a path and looking for the fruits, because we want at the end of the day to be able to acquire all these, to eat all these fruits so that they're able to go to the next level. So let's try and see. So I'm pressing my up arrow, then up again, then again. So look, once I click on, I touch the, it makes some noise, takes me back to the initial position. So I have to be very careful not to touch the line. Yes. Then I go looking for my fruits. So I'm using the right key. I'm moving up, using the up arrow, then across. I'm moving up again. So I touched the line and I'm back. So touch the line again. So you have to be careful not to touch the line. So I want us to come across one of the fruits so that we can see if our score is going to change, which is healthy. So let's try get one fruit so that we see if you're going to get some points and if it's going to change. There I am again. Okay. Up, right, up, right. Then down, right, up, up, then left, then up again, then you get the melon. So that's it. That is the conflict we were talking about. You want your target achieved. At the same time, you put challenges so that the target is not easy to achieve, and your player keeps trying again and again to be able to achieve the target. So you're creating a conflict. And we said you have to balance so that your player does not give up the process of playing the game, like I'm about to give up. So okay, let's try this again the last time so that we be able to get to the fruits. Okay, let me remove the condition of the line so that I'm able to get to the fruits and see if you're going to touch it. So if I touch color blue, so let me change this a little bit so that I'm able to move. But that's how the game is supposed to be challenging. I didn't save my work. So I have to go back. So this one we had set it to 60. So we set it to 60. And then the other one was 64. And then the last one was 69. Yes, just the way it is. So that's how the game is. You're supposed to move around. Try go to those positions and look for your fruits. And be able to gain points or lose points. So there we are about to touch the melon. So once we touch the melon, it's going to say, I love it, and then we gain more points. So as you can see, it's adding more points because it is not moving. So that is an error we have in our code, and we can be able to work on that and change that so that it stops remaining in one position and we're able to continue moving after we've touched the fruit. So those are some of the errors that come across when you're coding, and they are easy to debug. You can always change them. So we've said once you touch the orange or the fruit, then you say that you love the fruit, and then you're able to earn points. Then you're supposed to be able to continue with your movement. So we need to add something there so that we're able to continue with our movement. So that is the game we were working on yesterday. So I'm going to go back to today's to add another game so that you're able to relate with what we've been talking about on the concepts of games. So in this new game, the storyline behind it is about gender equality. As you can see, we have both genders represented in our game, and we want to give them a challenge, an equal challenge, and we expect that they'll be able to compete at equal grounds, equal rules, and then what one gender can do, the other one can also be able to do, given a chance and given the equal opportunity. So before we go to that, when we were talking about our games and creating the different elements of a game. So we looked at the player, and we say and have a game whereby you have more than one player, or a single player, or a player against the game, or a player against another game. So this game is an example of a game where we're going to have two players playing at the same time so that they're able to compete and be able to see who is going to be the winner, given that all the conditions are equal and every challenge is equal. So we have two players competing against each other. So I'm going to demonstrate how the game is gonna look like so that we're able to see, we can be able to have a game with more than one player, that it is possible to do that, so that we can be able to see now how can we be able to create that, because it is very possible. So I'm going to first show you the game, then now we're going to get deep into the game so that we're able to understand what I'm trying to talk about. So in the game that the one we were looking at in our previous session, which was one player, and the player was supposed to move the character, who was Agnes, around the maze. But in this game, we have two characters and we have two players who have to play the game at the same time so that the game is fun and interesting. So in this game, we have two characters. We have a boy and a girl, and they're going to be competing under different challenges. So I'm going to show you the different challenges that they have to go through. So going to be standing on the same ground, with the difference is just the color, so that you're able to highlight and every player knows which level they're working on. So we have two characters. We have one who will be playing on the blue line and the other one will be playing on the green line. the same thing. So we're going to be having two players, one to play on the green line, the other one to blue line. So it is very possible to have a game which is involving more than one player, and it's possible to do that using Scratch, as we looked at in the elements of a game. So I'm going first to show you the different costumes, which are going to pose the same challenge to our players. So as you can see, this is the first costume where every player stands once the game is starting. So these are this is the stage that we are talking about. Then once on this level, this is level 1. So once we go to the next costume, that will be level 2. So I'm on the blue costume. That's why the blue one is the one that is changing. So this is our costume number 1 is a starting ground, like when you're doing a race. You have the starting position. So this is where we are starting our game. And then the second costume, this is now the first challenge, where we expect them to be able to jump over this stumble or this object without stepping on it. Once you touch it, it takes you to the beginning or you lose, and your partner is able to leave if they're able to make the challenge. Then once you succeed this, it's supposed to take you to the next level, which is level 2. In this case, we have level 2. So you'll be able to go to level 2, and the challenges become more and more. Then next we'll have level 3, where it has more challenges. And then we also have level 5, which has a longer challenge. So the challenges keep changing as the levels you keep beating more levels. So they become tough and tough. So those are the different levels. And then finally, whoever gets to the end the first, between the blue and the green player, with the one who will be the winner, and they'll be given a reward. So that's it. So when you look at the green costume, it's still the same. That is the starting point. Then you go to the first challenge, the second level, the third level, then the fourth level, like that. So they're the same. The challenges are the same, and whoever gets to the end first is the one who will be the winner. So as we were looking at games, we said you can be able to create games with a different storyline. So in this case, we are looking at equality, which I've used to give an example of what I'm trying to, the kind of a game I have in mind. And then that is the storyline. So then when I'm looking at my players, their position, how they're going to interact with the game, all that. So in this game, we're going to have 2 players, unlike the previous session game where we had only 1 player playing the game. But in this point, we have 2 players being able to play the same game. And then it has the ability of the player to be able to move using different keys, so that there's no confusion in the game. So one player will be using the arrow keys, the other player will be using the letters in the keyboard to be able to move and jump and move backwards, all that we will see. And then the game has the challenge and the reward. So in the challenge, they need to be able to overcome these obstacles successfully so that they can be able to reach to the end of the game. And then remember, we said there must be a balance so that we do not frustrate our players or make them feel they cannot continue the game. Then there's some music by playing in the game to make it interesting and fun for the player. So all those things, the elements and the mechanism we were looking at when talking about games, should be able to be seen in your game for it to be interactive. So I'm waiting for questions. Please ask questions so that we're able to move to the next level. So that was today's plan. So I wanted you to be able to see the difference of what I was talking about. So it is very possible to do this using Scratch. And once you've been able to create all our games, it is also very possible to convert it into an application, and then you can be able to play it in your phone or your tablet or any other computer. So I'm going to take you through the game so that you can see the different aspects which have been applied in our game and be able to understand it, the different types of blocks that have been used, how to implement different rules, conditions, and all that. And so for the levels, we only have the changing from one level to the other based on if you've been able to handle the first challenge, can you be able to go to the next challenge? So that's it. So that's what happens to the challenges. So once you finish the first challenge, it takes you to the next challenge just like that, and you continue. Then for our characters in the game, so we have first to give them the position where they're going to be standing. So, and then when we are starting the game, there's that game intrusion bit. So we want them not to be visible. That's why we're telling them to hide once we click the green flag. So once we click the green flag, our characters are going to hide. Being instructed by this block. And then at the same time, once they move to the next level, we also have to dictate their position so that there's no collision in the game and it's able to continue smoothly. And then we have so many variables. In our previous game, we only had one variable, which was given the point. But in this game, we have so many variables, all this. But the only ones that we're able to see right now are the level that we are in. So all of them, they are starting in the starting position of the game. So all of them are in level 1. So as they advance to the next levels, you'll be able to see the level changing. So that is also made possible by this variable. So we have the level blue and level green. So it's able to show which level you're in. And then that is made possible by this. So we are changing the level by 1. So once you go to the next level, it increases by 1. Level 2, level 3, just like that till you get to the last level and you're able to win the game. Then we also have other variables like the XV, the YV. So the movement, the position, how you're going to move. If you're going to jump up, like you can see, Danny is jumping. So she's jumping up and down. So that change in position is also, we can also be able to change it and tell her once she gets to the top, she needs to come down. So once I press she goes up to the top, she comes down on her own. I'm not telling her to come down, and that is made possible by this change. When we put it to negative, it will drop. Change of Y by -1, it means you go down slowly. And then yesterday we were able to look at the sensing blocks, and today we have several that have been used. Like when you touch color red, you're supposed to go back to the starting position, as you can see here, and then you're set to 0. So you're starting again in that level. Then we also have another one, like when the D key is pressed, you're able to move up forward along the x-axis. X stands for x-axis and Y stands for y-axis. where there's a YV, that is y-axis, XV is along the x-axis. So we have also been able to use the sensors, like that one. Key D, when it's pressed, we have, when you touch a color green, what happens? All those are the different sensors we've been looking at. Then in our previous game, we were not able to come across any operator, but this game is a better one. It uses different operators, and we say the operators are the ones that are in green. So let us look in our code where we've been able to use the operator. So for example, when my character runs from this point where they're standing to the end of on this other point, how are they supposed to continue to the next level? So that is made possible by using an operator. That's why we are saying here, if the x position, remember this is along the x-axis, so if the x position is a sensor, remember? Sensors, you go to sensors, and then we pick the x position. So, no, sorry, it's a motion block. So yes, the x position, here it is. So you just drag it and put it in here. So when the x position, we give it a value. What is the value at the end of this? What is the value at the end of our game line? So we need to bring the character to this position so that we know which value do we put here. So for example, in our case, if I move Danny to this point, I can be able to read the x value, which is 229. So, but I want my character to be able to go beyond 229. So that's why I've put, once you exceed 240, it takes you to the next level in blue. So broadcast the next level in blue. So that's how we're able to use one of the operators in our case. Then we also have another operator that has been used here, where we are telling the, let me put it that way so that we're able to see. So we are telling our character that if they touch the green line, in our case, we are talking about this green player. So if you touch the green line, either this or this, what's going to happen? So if you touch the green line and you're pressing the W key, the W key, what is it supposed to do? So we can go up and look at our keys. So we have D, A. So we need to look for the W key. When W is pressed, then along the x-axis, you move by -5. -5 along x means you're going to towards which direction? Towards the left. If it is otherwise, if it is towards the positive direction, you're going towards the right. So it's either you're moving forward and then you touch the green color, then what happens? Your Y position will be able to change to 15. So so we have the operator here, the AND operator, the greater than. So this one has been used for multiplication. The star is for multiplication. So in this game, we've been able to apply different operators. And like yesterday, we only used the sensors. And then for the variables, we've also looked at the different variables that we've been able to create. All these are variables. And then we are working on them. We are setting them. Either we are changing them or setting them, or at some level we are even, let me see if we have a hide somewhere. So for this character, yes, so we are setting our variables, and at some point we are hiding our variables so that we are not able to see them. So that's it for today. We'll be able to code the game together in the next level so that you're able to understand. But I wanted you to be able to see you can be able to create a game which has more than one player, and you're able to play it, both of you, at the same time. So I can So I can see my players are standing on the same position. So I'm going to move all of them at the same time. So as you can see, they've been able to move from the first level to the next level, and they're standing in front of an obstacle, and they're supposed to jump that obstacle so that they're able to go to the next level. So once you touch it, it takes you back to the starting position. So it's up to you to be able to jump without touching the red buzzer. So as you can see, I can be able to jump, I can move backwards, and I can move forward. So you are supposed to have more than 2 players playing. That's why the 2 should be competing at the same time. So as you can see, our players are playing at the same time, and they're able to compete with each other until they're able to overcome the challenge. Danny is past the challenge, so they're able to go to the next level. So it's in the next level, and it's supposed to jump those 2 obstacles. All those 5 without touching any, so that they're able to earn more points and go to the next level. So once you touch, it takes you back to the beginning of the game. And as you move with the game, you can see then she's in the 2nd level, and Dan is in the 3rd level. So it's very possible to have a multiplayer game with Scratch and be able to download it and be able to use it. Be able to download it and convert it into an application which can be played in a game, in a mobile phone, sorry, or in a computer or in a tablet. So it is very possible. So that was our equality game. And as you've seen, we've been able to use different conditions as I was showing. We have the if inside the ifs. So it's very possible for you to have one if and you put another one inside it and another one and another, as many as you want to. There's also use of a repeat block where we are telling it to repeat the different costumes. So those are the different blocks, conditional blocks that have been used in this multiplayer game where we have two players playing. So we have the if statement, the if else, and then we have the repeat. And like yesterday where we had the forever and the if then used. So those are forever and then the if then. But today we are looking at the if then, the if else, all that. And then we're also looking at the repeat and the wait. Also the wait falls under that category. Under the sensing block, so like yesterday we were looking at if they sense the color. So even today we are looking at the color again. So yesterday we had the color. If you touch the color, if the key is pressed, so if a fruit is touched. So even today we're having that. So we're having if you touch a color, you're able to detect it, or a certain key is pressed, you're also able to sense that and do some action. But today we're also looking at the operator blocks, which are the green ones. They're green in color. So this one is a multiplication operator. This one is a greater than. We have a multiplication again here, a greater than, and an and operator for joining elements. Then yesterday we only looked at one variable. So we had a variable which was about our health. So this is the variable that we were able to create. But in the multiplayer game, we have more variables where we have the levels in different color because we have two players, so one in blue and the other one in green. Then we have the XV twice and the YV. So the Y's are along the Y axis and the X determine the movement along the X axis, and they're able to increase and reduce the movement as we want. Then we've been able to manipulate the variables by setting them, being able to hide the different variables where we don't want them. At the same time, we have been able to change the variable such that we can be able to move from one level to the other. And yeah, and this is what I was talking about. We can increment and decrement along the x-axis. So this is a positive, which was a positive move, and a negative, which is towards the left. This is towards the right. So that's it for our variables today. So those are two examples we've been able to look at. So we've been able to look at a maze, which is a one player and supposed to move along that maze, getting the different items. And then we had the two players game for gender equality where they're supposed to compete under the same conditions, and we see who's going to be the winner. So yes, thank you so much. Thank you once again. So these are the different things that we've been able to look at when we talk of variables. So in our case, we created a variable for health, and we are even able to set our health to 0 every time we are starting or the flag is clicked. And then, yes, so more on variables where we've been able to change our variable by 5. And at the same time, we're able to reduce the variable by -5. So when we talk about gender equality, so we are talking about these two characters who have been given an opportunity, an equal opportunity to be able to compete in the same conditions. So when we look at the condition this time, we are looking at the if statement, if then. And then we're also looking at the if else, which has an else here. And the same thing to this other one, the if else. So, and then we've also been able to look at the wait and the repeat blocks. So for the sensing in our second activity, we're looking at the color again here. Then for the operators, we say they're the ones in green. So we have the multiplication, we have a greater than operator. We also have another multiplication here. And we have the and, which is the green in color, and the greater than again. So here we're using a greater than to be able to compare or give rules. Then back to the variables. So this time we've created so many variables. All these are variables that we've been able to create. And we're able to manipulate them by setting them or by being able to hide our variables. Yeah. So more again on variables, so we can be able to change our variable by a value. Same thing here, being able to change our variables. Here we have a positive. And then here we have a negative, which is towards the left. And then the positive, which is towards the right. Thank you so much. Since there are no questions, we are going to end the session there. Bye-bye.